As a kid, I was very energetic. I was athletic. I did all the California sports. I swam, I surfed. When I woke up from my first seizure, everybody was crying and freaking out. I didn't really understand what had just happened, but everybody was so scared that it made me so scared. The hardest thing for me was getting pulled out of all my activities, all my sports. Once I started the Depakote, my seizures stopped completely, and I was much more like a normal little kid. I didn't have any restrictions. I think that was probably a pretty big moment for, the people around me. When I wasn't able to play sports, I went to a hockey game, and they needed a goalie. So I wanted to play, and I did play, and my neurologist thought that was great because, what better way to introduce me back into sports where I'm completely protected. I have a helmet on. If I have a seizure, nothing's happening to me. So everyone was really excited, and I was excited, and I played goalie one game, and I just kept playing.
All right, get in there, Shonda. Switch it up.
I was offered a full scholarship to the University of Wisconsin. And when you go to college, especially as an athlete, everything changes. Your whole schedule, your training, everything changes dramatically. I started having seizures uncontrollably, and I was hospitalized and eventually sent home because I couldn't play and I couldn't live independently. I saw my pediatric neurologist. He put me on Depakote at a much higher level than I had been on, probably 3 times the level. And I'd say it was less than 6 months before my seizures were under control again. As soon as they'd let me, I was on the ice. And the coach wasn't really accepting of that idea after seeing, how sick I was and having the seizures. She really saw me as, I think, a disabled athlete. They said, you can come back as a student, you can keep your scholarship, but we're not willing to have you be a part of this team. And that was never a question for me. I was always going to play hockey. The next morning, I went to the computer, I printed out all the Division I programs, and I started calling coaches. Northeastern was one of the few schools that was really accepting of me. I had the reputation of being the sick goalie, the goalie with seizures, not reliable. I came to Northeastern, I didn't play a lot of games. I was definitely a backup. And I went home that summer and I worked 3 times as hard as I had ever worked before, and I came back as a sophomore and I started every game. I was All-American and made the national team that year. Our first game, you're so nervous because, the place is filled and you don't want to lose this game. Trisha Dunn blocked a shot and went in and scored a breakaway, and it was 2-0, and everyone went crazy and they were waving flags, and that was my Olympic moment. That's where I was like proud to be American and not give up, and that was our team and we were representing our country. In August, the national team is centralizing in Blaine, Minnesota, so I will be in Minnesota full-time and we'll be a full-time athletes for the next 18 months before the Olympics. I don't think about having seizures on a day-to-day basis. It's more on a larger level of taking care of myself and making sure I take my Depakote, making sure I eat well and I sleep and I do the things so that I don't have to worry about it on a day-to-day basis. I'm a spokesperson for the Epilepsy Therapy Project, and I think that specific cause is important to me because when your kid first has seizures, you feel like they're disabled or they're not going to be able to live independently or they're not going to be able to do this and that, and to go and to see somebody who has epilepsy that can do and can be successful is really helpful to them.
There you go.
In my life, I envision myself always being involved in the game of hockey to some extent, whether it's refereeing or coaching or continuing to play at an amateur level. When I'm 85 years old, I think that I'll always be involved in the game. Depakote has really allowed me to live my life and be an athlete and pretty much be who I am because it controls my seizures. And having epilepsy with your seizures controlled really isn't a disability at all. It's when your seizures aren't controlled that I wouldn't even be able to live independently without Depakote.